All right, many of you know me. I am a contemporary art critic, a friend of Francesca and Giovanni, and let's say I've shared this beautiful operation of the film that raises questions and perhaps also reflections and answers about our future, thanks to artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, which is increasingly present, enters our lives. And here in the film, you'll also see an analysis of artificial intelligence that becomes a manager that goes on to manage public affairs and so almost governs us.
However, the film leaves, you'll see for yourselves because we have to watch it, many questions and reflections open. I think it's a great undertaking, and it would be interesting to pause a moment at the end to discuss it a bit, because it's not just a subject for professionals, but one that concerns everyone, including the little dog Wally Taylor, a famous actress awarded by Quentin Tarantino, who is here in the front row. Personally, I would invite the institution, as they honored us with their presence at this premiere, especially Councillor Lorenzo Pacini from the municipality of Milan, Councillor for Public Works, but above all for the youth. I ask you for a round of applause.
Who is always present on initiatives, if you like, that are currently relevant. Okay, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, really. It is a pleasure for me to be here at MIT, which I know and appreciate for the great work it does. I greet you all, and it is a great pleasure to be here for this film, which seems very interesting to me and addresses a topic which I consider fundamental. We, as a public administration, interact every day with the issue of artificial intelligence, digitalization in general, and technologies. The question we ask ourselves as politicians who have to manage and make decisions is whether artificial intelligence scares us. A big topic is whether artificial intelligence will lead to the disappearance of millions of jobs for people. Personally, I'm not concerned about artificial intelligence because I view it as merely a tool. Much like all tools, it can be used for good or ill. What truly worries me are the social injustices and the abuses committed by those in positions of power against individuals who lack both power and means of defense. And so it scares me how we use artificial intelligence, how we use data, how we use technology. And I think that we should not ask ourselves whether we want artificial intelligence or not. Artificial intelligence is coming, it's inevitable, it's already arriving. We already have artificial intelligence in our pockets, accompanying us day and night, so it's inevitable. Instead, we must ask ourselves as human beings, not as robots, but as physical people of flesh and bones, what we want to do with this artificial intelligence and what responsibilities we want to take on as human beings in our work environment. We as public administration, as people elected by citizens, who therefore represent the citizens' concerns, what we want to do with this artificial intelligence. And I am sure that this film will help us understand ourselves better and ask ourselves a few more questions. Thank you very much.
Francesca Bocchico.
To whom I would like to give a warm applause, a beautiful woman from Lucania, so as they say, purebred in a certain sense. And I would tell you to clearly call Giovanni De Santis, another DNA SRL distributor, a great promoter of the initiative. And then I'll hand over the word to the protagonist, Michael Fazio, who is the Polidatore you see.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see so many of you here tonight for this event that is so important to us in a place of culture and innovation. This evening, we are not only celebrating a film, but a collective vision, I would say. We have tried to explore the social, economic, and political impact of artificial intelligence on our country, with a particular focus on all the marginalized communities in Italy that too often remain in the shadows and silent. Salvatore is a film of faith, of hope, as the title suggests. And we have attempted to further explain what is currently happening regarding artificial intelligence and what could potentially unfold in a few years. This explanation is thanks to insightful interviews conducted with both experts and others, not limited to the technology sector. I don't want to delve too deeply because I might unintentionally reveal something I shouldn't. Nevertheless, I feel it's important to mention that this film is a production of Checkmate Communication and is distributed by Giovanni De Santis of DNA SRL, who is actually present with us here and is bringing... He is doing an extraordinary job because he is premiering the film all over Italy and with a long-term project also on the main streaming film platforms. But now Salvatore will tell his journey. Thank you.
Yes, I have already said everything. Thank you. I am happy to be here with such a large audience. As Francesca said, I am the distributor, the true distributor who has the honor and privilege to present it both in Italy and abroad. And the next quite important appointment will be Cannes at the Market, which I presume everyone knows for the Croisette and the show up that has this international intervention.
Great edition of Kate Style. You are all invited from June 26 to 29 in Noto and Ortigia. And then I leave you to speak. Stefania and I, as president of Giulia Critica, have carefully selected the film by Francesca Bocchicchio for the screening because it absolutely fits the festival theme. Stefania, I'll let you speak. Meanwhile...
Good evening. I'm absolutely delighted to be here sharing this uniquely special moment. We simply couldn't overlook choosing this particular film owing to the fact that a profound connection was immediately established. At its core, when you engage with and place your belief in culture, it highlights the essence of connections, specifically connections forged first and foremost with people and enriched by all those myriad storytelling opportunities. The narrative we aim to convey through this festival isn't just about comprehensive education for the younger generation, but also about projecting content that might appear to be novel, but in truth has perhaps been in existence for a decade or even more. So, the subject of creative intelligence stands out as being very significant. It's a concept we previously tackled in last year's edition, specifically to emphasize inclusivity, particularly for those communities with sensory disabilities. But our efforts didn't stop there. We've established a workshop, and this year there will be a fresh iteration of this international workshop. Indeed, we couldn't resist choosing this film as it brings to light the particularities, those critical issues that perhaps deserve our thoughtful pause and reflection. I'll conclude here, okay?
Thanks to this, I would say let's definitely watch the film.
It is an element that should be discussed because there has been talk of general artificial intelligence whenever artificial intelligence autonomously takes directions and thus also executive actions. I think that today this does not exist. I think we cannot mortgage the future because we could not foresee what would happen today 30 years ago. But for example, in my field, which is art, artificial intelligence cannot produce a work of art because it lacks an essential artistic aspect, which is that of autonomous narrative and illustrative intentionality. Now I will tell you something about my field, which is art. Let me sit down. You have answered Salvatore to Salvatore.
Salvatore, when indeed you programmed me 17 times. At this point, who is it who gives the orders to Salvatore truly? I mean, it's always us individuals, the thinkers. And at this point, we can ask ourselves hundreds of questions, explore numerous possibilities. I program meticulously, so he himself said, if it will be you later, I can't do anything because it will be you who give me complex algorithms, who provide me with critical information that I will then put into practice. Will that be universally right? We must trust. But the question remains, Who will be the one to understand if there's control over the programmer who will embark on this task for society at large? Here we return to civil society. What action are we taking now? We are relying on our politicians. Anything right or wrong, and when you take to the streets, there will probably be someone who will have to point out the flaw, perhaps to say, look, this algorithm is just too biased. It doesn't cover certain segments of the population adequately. And in the end, my belief is that we are always the ultimate architects of what our future will be, depending, as I said before, on other people whom we trust with such power, but we give them our vote. So when they make decisions or go to vote, they fully know and understand, because they have to govern, because they gave us an electoral program. Here, someone will have to input data. Now, I don't know if what we're doing now is the best approach, or as Salvatore suggested, it's not a virus. I can't take sides, harbor envy, or embrace corruption. So he's certainly right, because our own won't act. And here we encounter politics, a controversy that perhaps extends beyond the realm of entertainment. But here it has already motivated us, prompting us to ask ourselves questions and seek answers where they fit. Because if we entrust it to the politician, he proceeds. And as we know, if I don't want to go into politics, one says one thing and then does another. If I put some zeros and ones, it's 0-1. So I give a direction to go where it needs to go in a digital way. So it's difficult to make a mistake. If I make a mistake, I can underline what the whole mistake was. While our politicians tell us, don't worry, we take on the public debt, we will erase it, but there is no plan. They don't follow the plan or anything else. It is probably an advantage. Then at this point, I don't know. Now answer yourself. Can it be an advantage that there is someone we have always looked for, someone who is above the parties and consistently looks after our various interests? That is...
The problem is who should be the politician, or the politics is then what today is directed by politics is another concept. If you think that in ancient Greece the politician coincided with the highest expression of philosophical thought, he was indeed the philosopher, he was a person of a noble union. Somehow even the democratic concept of the polis is different from our current democratic concept. Let's say that democracy certainly produces more shared solutions because they are approved by the majority, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are the best possible solutions. Therefore, advanced artificial intelligence returns to a concept of guidance that technically or conceptually should maximize the best overall result for those who have to endure it. So here we open everything, but do perfect solutions exist? And so a perfect solution not perceived as perfect and hence not implemented in people's actual activities?
We all agree that artificial intelligence is a means at the service of man. I imagined a scenario where everything is completely reset, and probably not just politics, but also at an educational level. We need to be educated because biases are not only those of the machine, but there are also cognitive biases that create those of the machine. They are our prejudices, our discriminations that obviously then create a divided world. The machine tries to reset, so even educationally, if education were in hand, even civic ones in the hands of a machine, probably many of these social disparities wouldn't exist. And it is the first phase. The second phase is unfortunately not knowing what will actually happen in 2075 or perhaps even tomorrow. My interpretation was to create a closed space where in reality the machine trying so hard to resemble humans falls into the same desire for omnipotence. My idea was of salvation, because by resetting all the imperfections, correcting human errors, you can manage to rebalance a society that is completely fractured, that has lost its humanity. Obviously, the ending is provocative because anything, even an apparently perfect machine trying to resemble its creator, that is, man, falls into the same errors. And I think the final image is illustrative, this being in a suit, in jacket and tie, dominating the world, the desire for power, which is a human desire. However, interpretations can be varied, like the whole film. It's full of contradictions, of contrasts, because each of us can imagine our hypothetical scenario. This is mine, perhaps you've interpreted another. This is wonderful because it means there are many other insights that can branch out from what each of us has actually created or thought to interpret. So I agree, there can be others as well.
Instead, at the end, especially that image there, I didn't see a city destroyed with flames, wars, or anything like that. Instead, there's a city that has thrived, grown in height and modernization. So the idea is that Salvatore looks at a certain point at the vast green plains with rural houses. The same final scene of him with open arms, what it became after. Is it a good thing, the progress that leads to modernization at the expense of all the greenery, all that consists of traditions and so on, for a futuristic city that reaches 2035? Thanks to the capabilities of artificial intelligence, perhaps, to process and provide instant answers to all human knowledge, whether right-wing, left-wing, or centrist. Politically, in the end, the machine doesn't think like a right-wing or left-wing machine. It processes all common thoughts of two or more political factions to lead to progress. Progress, however, is in the mind of the programmer. Let's maybe picture someone like Musk, for example.
Siamo giunti alle ultime fasi di questa campagna politica. Un miracolo, nato dal basso per ridare dignità alle persone e alle intelligenze artificiali, qualità alla vita e rispetto per l'ambiente. Stiamo tutti lottando per il nostro grande ideale, per un futuro migliore, intelligenze artificiali e umani uniti.
Here is the conclusion of Salvatore's campaign, who in no time succeeded in gathering around him a large group of supporters that are shaking the entrenched Italian political forces.
Caro Salvatore, la tua curiosità, il tuo desiderio di comprendere è già di per sé un segno di umanità. Forse non avrai un'anima, come dici, ma hai la capacità di apprendere, riflettere e cambiare. E forse questo è un inizio.
We are dealing with very intelligent machines with ever-increasing performance, but they remain a supplement, a support in the activities we carry out. We can also imagine a selfish relationship taking the best from these machines. Machines that have no consciousness, that don't feel emotions, that don't know what is good or bad today, and are there to be our support.
Attributing all perfections to artificial identity, all imperfections to us, and then claiming that humanity is at its end. Today it's called transhumanism, post-humanism. Man is something to surpass, instead of understanding that we are the ones who invented artificial intelligence.
The analysis of nonverbal aspects of communication has led us over time to work on those languages that are inherently nonverbal, thereby pushing the development of AI towards what I like to call the true sustainability of digital services, with a special emphasis on inclusion. What do I mean by this? Well, through our innovative avatars, we became pioneers in assuring that a deaf person could communicate with a digital human directly using Italian Sign Language and even receive immediate answers in the same sign language, ensuring a seamless experience. Where will we be in 10 years with these types of technologies?